Christopher Nolan, the filmmaker who spent a decade grounded in the dark realism of Gotham, is turning toward the sea for his next project. He is adapting the Odyssey. Nolan argues that the superhero genre has a direct lineage back to the Homeric epics. To him, Homer wasn't just a poet, he was the George Lucas of his era, creating a world where gods and mortals shared the same stage. The production reflects that scale, pulling in a cast with Zendaya, actor Matt Damon, and Tom Holland. It is an immense Hollywood investment in a story nearly 3,000 years old. But this creates a strange paradox. This same story about a warrior and a Cyclops also provided the skeleton for James Joyce's Ulysses, a novel famous for being as rewarding as it is notoriously difficult to finish. On the surface, a $200 million blockbuster and a dense modernist novel share nothing, yet both rely on a dramatic logic first sketched out in the Bronze Age. The original story tracks Odysseus on a 10-year struggle to reach his home in Ithaca after the Trojan War. Before it was ever written down, it survived as an oral tradition, living through the voices of bards. Odysseus faces a gauntlet of physical obstacles, the magic of Circe, the lethal song of the sirens, and the narrow, impossible passage between Scylla and Charybdis. Back in Ithaca, the threat is domestic. His son Telemachus is forced to come of age in a palace occupied by dozens of suitors who are waiting for his father to be declared dead. The reason this poem persisted isn't the monsters. It's because Homer established a series of human archetypes that are still recognizable today. Consider his encounter with the Cyclops, Polyphemus. Odysseus doesn't win through strength, he wins through a logic trap. By telling the monster his name is Nobody, he ensures that when he attacks, the monster's cries for help will be ignored by his peers. It sets the standard for the cunning, flawed protagonist. The poem also introduces xenia, or guest friendship. This served as a moral metric. In Homer's world, civilization is defined by those who offer hospitality, while barbarism is defined by those, like the Cyclops or the suitors, who abuse it. When Odysseus finally returns and kills the suitors, the audience is left to weigh the results. It forces us to look at the murky space between an act of justice and a cycle of revenge. By 1922, the trauma of World War I had left the world feeling fractured. James Joyce saw that the old ways of telling stories no longer matched the internal reality of modern life. He took Homer's sprawling 10-year ocean voyage and compressed it. Joyce's Ulysses takes place over one single unremarkable day in Dublin, June 16, 1904. T.S. Eliot called this the mythical method. He argued that by layering an ancient structure over modern chaos, Joyce was able to give a sense of order to the ordinary. Joyce's stream of consciousness technique moved the battleground. The monsters were no longer in the ocean. They were the doubts and distractions found inside the human mind. He took the ancient concept of nostos, the drive to return home, and applied it to the feeling of alienation. It was a journey toward belonging in a world that felt increasingly indifferent. Joyce demonstrated that the poem's themes are portable. They could be used to explore the internal thoughts of a clerk in Dublin just as effectively as the physical trials of a king. Now the timeline has circled back. If Joyce internalized the epic, modern cinema has taken that same structure and made it spectacular once again. When Nolan calls the Odyssey the marvel of its day, he is identifying a recurring human desire to see individual agency tested against the power of the gods. The modern superhero arc maps directly onto the ancient one. The weight of destiny, the burden of power, and the struggle for justice are the same points of tension Odysseus faced. The design of this 3,000-year-old story is effective enough to support a superhero franchise and a modernist novel simultaneously. It provides a common language for how we visualize a character's struggle. Whether you are watching a man in a mask in Gotham, reading about a wanderer in 1904 Dublin, or listening to a poem from the Bronze Age, you are hearing the same account of a person trying to find their way home.